All right, we're here with Dean Henderson today, and this is a post-summit interview. Today is September 27, 2019, and this is Dean. You and I first connected several months ago in preparation for the summit, and your content is truly revolutionary. We're just talking about the idea of revolution, and I wanted to include your interview in the summit, and there were some technical problems and some other circumstantial things that seem to indicate that it's going to be best following the summit when we're in this going deeper phase, which we're now in, right? Like, we know about 5G, we know that it's harmful, we know that it's like a big surveillance agenda, and it's like, how the frick could this actually be happening? We know the science from 40 years ago is basically is clear. From 40 years ago, the government, military, Navy, Army, all kinds of institutions, science from 40 years ago saying microwave radiation is unsafe. There's thousands of research reports going back. We want some context now, and so you have a very specific viewpoint with regards to going deeper. Dean, why don't you tell us a little bit about your background, and then we'll dive into your perspective on what's really going on, what's behind 5G, what's the real agenda, where is this going, and I suppose what can we do in addition to the solutions that are maybe more pragmatic that we've already addressed, introducing that next level of this 5G related conversation, I would suppose. So tell us a little bit about your work, your background, and how you came to this point.
Yeah, well, thanks so much for having me, Josh. I started out, grew up on a cattle ranch in central South Dakota. It wasn't just a cattle ranch. I guess we raised pigs and sheep, chickens, pheasants, all kind of stuff. Butchered our own animals, grew a huge garden, 1 acre of potatoes, 1 acre of vegetables. My dad was a diversified farmer. He grew oats, barley, wheat back in the day when people did that. Now it's just corn and soybeans and Roundup in that area up there, sadly. Drove a lot of the middle-sized farms out. It's the middle-sized farms that are going to save us food-wise. For starters, I grew up on a farm, hunting, fishing. I was even trapping, very close to the earth. Dad taught me the Indian ways too. He took me to the Northern Cheyenne Reservation, the Cheyenne River Reservation. I'm sorry, out West River, South Dakota. We hunted grouse and antelope, and did a lot of that out there with the Indians. So I was exposed to the native people early on too. Who I really think are going to lead us out of this, or at least their way of thinking about things, which is a more just inclusive version of Christianity, which includes all living things as our brothers and sisters, four-legged, two-legged, the winged birds and everything, and the plants and the rocks, and you can talk to all these things. So it's just a different understanding that really is the way out of this. I went on and I got out, I went through the farm crisis. My dad had passed in a car accident by that time, but I went through the farm crisis. And that, by the way, I think was a really significant portion of my life. I was 12 years old, supposed to be with him that day. Had a lot of guilt for not being with him for a few years after that. It was just a freak thing. But in the end, it was like some kind of jolt to my consciousness that really made me realize that, our time in this world is limited. So, and we may lose anybody at any time that we really love, and you better make the most of it. So I think that I often say my dad's death, it was like a martyr for my consciousness in a way. And he just taught me so much about standing up for the little guy and being brave in a place where most people were cowards even back then, I mean, honestly, and most people still are, unfortunately. But so I went through the farm crisis. A lot of my friends, families went out of business. We did protests when I was in college. Against the Reagan policies, dumped a load of weed on the Sioux Falls Arena grounds when I was probably 18. At 19, I was in Nicaragua with Witness for Peace, monitoring the atrocities of the Contra War that Reagan was prosecuting against the Sandinistas and Ortega and their liberation theology based revolution. A very interesting thing, liberation theology, that everyone should check out. It sort of takes the economic part of Marxism and tosses out the cultural baggage, I think is what I would say it is. Actually very socially conservative and economically radical. So it's a very interesting thing that developed in the Catholic Church under the 1968 Median Conference of Bishops, where they said they're going to side with the poor people in Latin America instead of the oligarchy. And it revolutionized that whole area. This is where Chavez came out of. This is where all the revolutionary leaders, whether it's, the Bolivian president or Correa in Ecuador or any of these people, the Workers' Party in Brazil. And so that made a big impact on me, seeing that and straight up and what was going on and the drugs that were being run through that zone. And I met a bunch of mercenaries traveling later in that area that told me what was going on. And so then I got my bachelor's degree in liberal studies, University of South Dakota. Again, I took a lot of different, sociology, anthropology, philosophy, a lot of Lakota philosophy. Had a really good teacher named Robert Bunge, who was half Lakota. He spoke 22 languages, 7 fluently. He never went to college. He traveled the world as a deckhand on freighters and was later given an honorary PhD because he was just so brilliant. Again, I was a writer at the newspaper there. And then I got my grad degree, my MS in environmental studies at University of Montana in environmental studies, again, an interdisciplinary program that brought I'm really a big proponent of interdisciplinary education where, they've set up the world where they've segmented off certain realities, like sociology is different from political science, is different from economics, is different from, whatever, but it's actually all connected. And this is what I'm talking about with the native way of thinking, and everything's a circle and everything's connected and there's nothing split apart. And what we're seeing with this computer/internet/5G push right now is a further schisming of reality into these little parts. So anyway, I got my master's, and while I was doing that, I did a thesis. It was called A Political Economy of Middle East Oil, the GCC, a regional resource securities regime or state for the regime of international capital accumulation. The PhD people like those long titles. But what it meant was the countries of Kuwait, Saudi Arabia, Qatar, Bahrain, Oman, and the UAE, and just studying how that was all a creation of the British Empire. It's on that what would be southwest corner of the Persian Gulf, where 42% of the world's oil is. And they set up these little kingdoms modeled after their kingdom in the United Kingdom. They call it a United Kingdom for a reason. We'll get to that later. They set these families up against the Ottoman Empire, ran them out of the area. And then with the Treaty of Jeddah, they brought in Saudi Arabia in 22. With the Balfour Declaration in 1917, they brought in the Israeli regime later in 47 after they sponsored Hitler. The Nazis originate from the British Crown, not from Hitler. He went to the Tavistock Institute in 33 and learned everything he knew there. And they were trying to bring down the German economy, but they were also trying, because that was competition for the tentacles of the British Empire and their manufacturing base, but also to create the state of Israel was a big reason for Hitler. And Israel is not a Jewish homeland. It's simply another outpost for the crown in their control of the whole planet. But anyway, that's a little bit about me as far as my education, my background. My first book, Big Oil and Their Bankers in the Persian Gulf, was based on that thesis and that I wrote for my master's. And then I wasn't quite content with it. So I kept reading. I read probably 100 more books. I traveled to 50 countries, reading newspapers in Guatemala City and Bangkok and Manila and just all over, and putting it together. Had a stack of papers about like that. Finally got that book out in 2004, 950 something footnotes, around 500 pages. And already at that time, I was seeing the writing on the wall that basically the United States, which everyone considers the military power in the world, and it is the military power, but it isn't the economic or the real controlling force in the world. And what in fact is this city of London / crown, city of London being a 1 square mile area within London proper and within the UK, but not part of either one, where you have to be a Freemason to be either an alderman or a councilman, which it's ruled by, or a Lord Mayor, which is the head of it, where every bank within that square mile has its own Freemason lodge. And this is where all the derivatives are traded from in the world, which has wrecked the global economy more than anything else, the derivatives. This is where the offshore banking network is run out of for, say the Cayman Islands, Bermuda, Bahamas, Panama, Isle of Jersey, Isle of Man, whatever it is. Numbered accounts at the Bank of England. Nobody knows the owners. Over $100 trillion worth of it. This is where the royals and the bloodlines and those kind of people hide their wealth. And so everybody thinks Bill Gates is the richest guy in the world. No, not even close. You just can't really find out who these people are because it's protected by this entity called the City of London. And all the royal families of Europe and of Saudi Arabia and the Khan family, which every president of India has been a Khan throughout history. They also, the current prime minister of Pakistan is a Khan. The Aga Khan Foundation creates all the Islamists in the world for the MI6 and the CIA, which go out and do terror attacks, whether it's Al Qaeda, whether it's ISIS, whether it's Boko Haram, Al Shabaab, it doesn't matter. These are all created by the Aga Khan Foundation, and their madrasas funded by the Saudi royal family. And the Khans, if you Google it, you'll see that the Queen just threw Aga Khan a big birthday party because they're cousins. They're working together on these things. So, and then Genghis Khan was also a part of this bloodline, and he, was used by the Venetian bankers before they ever moved to the City of London to do their war against the Vatican and against Constantinople, or what is now Turkey. So this goes way back, and that's the thing. My latest, I've written 6 books. Big Oil was the first. The Grateful and Rich: Revolution in 50 Countries is my travel book, but it's a lot more than a travel book. It's again hinting at the control by the families and the royals, and because you go everywhere and you see the same corporations, and you see the same banks, you see HSBC everywhere you go, Standard and Chartered, and you start to realize, wow, this is way bigger than just some punchline about the U.S. is the big power, and that, of course, is what they want you to think, because that way we can get the black eye, we can pay for it, our boys can die, and this is what they do. They start wars. They want to start one between the U.S. and Iran now. Didn't happen. What do we get within a few days? Impeachment proceedings, because Trump showed some restraint. And I'm no Trump fan at all, but this is how it works. He's in there for a reason. So then the third book is Sticking It to the Matrix. It's a way to get out of the system without working a job, and not only getting out of it, but kind of attacking it and going after it because it's a bad system. Help other people get out of it, that sort of thing. Then the Federal Reserve Cartel, which is about the 8 families that own 52% of the New York Fed. It's the Kuhn Loebs, it's the Goldman Sachs, it's the Rothschilds, it's the Rockefellers, it's the Israel Moses Saifs, Lazards, Lehman, Oppenheimer, and I'm missing one. I always miss one. Kuhn Loeb, they say that. But anyway, there's 8 families that own 52% literally of the New York Fed, which is the most powerful Fed because that's Citigroup and that's JP Morgan Chase. And both of those banks have merged a bunch of other banks into them. Including Manufacturers Hanover, which is the kind of the Queen's Bank through Riggs Bank, and so forth. And Coots Bank is another one of her banks that's merged into it. But these, and the 5th book is Illuminati Agenda 21, the Luciferian plan to destroy creation. And this is about the Agenda 21, which it's planned for 2021, 21st century, 21st year of that century, and they're serious about it. There's a lot of stuff out there now about some Agenda 30, and I think it's disinformation coming from the intel community because no, it's happening fast. This is coming out fast, and they're actually accelerating their agenda because they know the awareness of their agenda has really also accelerated, and it's kind of a race right now. So that's about the use of technology, glyphosates, vaccinations, fluoridation, all these things. And basically addiction to technology that they've got people on. And it's also about the inversion of right and wrong. The Luciferian Freemasons, they're a fundamentalist religion. They know the Bible better than anybody. They study the Bible. It's just they're on the wrong side. They think our God that we think is God is Adonai, which means God of darkness to them. And Lucifer, the fallen angel, or the Nephilim, is a good guy. That's he's enlightened. He knows, but so there's this whole thing about how we got this technology from the ancients. You hear it all the time. It's being popularized. It's being popularized for a reason, and you're supposed to actually like the ancients. You're supposed to think they're cool because they have this technology. But in fact, technology, as Brian Deloria and any number of Native American leaders will tell you, it will be our demise. Technology will be our demise because it's by its very nature, it's always been introduced to mankind, and this isn't the first time it's happened. And it's always been our demise because it makes us arrogant. It makes us extend our sense of self beyond who we really are. And quite honestly, it's just not natural. It's not from here. It's not carbon based. It's silicone based. So my last book that I wrote, I put it out about 2 months ago, Nephilim Crown 5G Apocalypse. And this is where I really dive into the tech companies and how they were started, who created them. and who's behind it. And along the way, I did find this company called Circo. And when I first started investigating 5G and technology addiction and Facebook and all the weirdness around it, I started thinking I wasn't really connecting it with the crown, even though that was my background. And fortunately, that was my background. So when I came across some certain information, I was able to make that connection. But how it's worked is, see, the first of this kind of technology was Guglielmo Marconi, and he was actually a royal
before we get into this, because this is like a really exciting next phase, like talking about how technologically we've got to this point, and linking it with, I mean, you're not afraid to name names, right, and say who's who, and that's something that's really unique and powerful about your work. But so before we get into that, I just want to like kind of pause and connect with the viewers and basically say, like, this is definitely we're going deeper than probably anything in the summit right now. And so so I personally might not necessarily agree with everything that Dean says, and you need to do your homework and you need to do your own research and come to your own conclusions. That's part of I believe the lesson here is for us to really get empowered and to really know the truth for ourselves and really embody that from within and really have a deeper understanding. So I reflect that back to the audience here. And secondly, Dean, I'm going to probably get some emails that some people don't agree with this, but we can't sanitize this conversation anymore, right? Things are moving really quickly, as you say, and that people are ready for deeper level truths to try to make some sense out of what's really happening on the planet, right? So we're privileged to be able to tap into your perspective and all of your research, your decades of research, and we'll put we'll put a link to your website. First of all, before we kind of dive in, tell us your website and where people can get your books and tap into your research and your mailing list.
Yeah, sure. My website is hendersonlefthook.wordpress.com, and you can subscribe free to that. It's just a little button in the upper right corner. It says free email subscription. That way, every time I write an article, which is usually once a week, and every time I do a video like with Josh here, I got three interviews I'm doing today, I post all those on my site, and you'll get those when they're posted as well, so you can watch all that. And it's all free. And I really don't ask for donations. I don't have a Patreon. I make a little money selling books, and that's how I kind of, keep that going. My books, just go to Amazon.com. Unfortunately, I have to go through Amazon because I self-publish, and these books are so controversial that no publisher is going to touch them. And even if they do, they give you 10%. They pretty much rip you off. At least at Amazon, I get about 40%. And so I don't like Amazon at all. But it's the only way you can get my books. I don't even have copies at the house here anymore because I don't figure I need to read my books. I'm not prideful about it or vain about it. I just want other people to read my books. But it's a win-win when you read my books because, I make a little money, but the most important thing, I could care less about the money. Really, I could because I don't need it. But what's more important is the information in these books. Just go to Amazon and type in Dean Henderson and you'll see all 6 of them. But and exactly, Josh. It's true. Nobody should believe anything I say today. Take it at face value. You should never take anything at face value. Anything. Hopefully, your grandma taught you that.
What's your perspective? I mean, you're sharing. You and I have different theories on how to reach people, and like we were talking about before, it takes multiple different angles, multiple body parts to make a whole body, right? So, I respect your work. You have kind of like this shock therapy approach, and I have this like cast a wide net approach, and we're all kind of in this together. Are you seeing people are ready for the kind of like unveiling the red pill kind of material that you're speaking? What's some of the reactions and responses that you're getting as you're doing these interviews and doing conferences and so forth?
My work, and again, I don't say this out of ego. My work is exploding right now across the whole globe, and I sold more books last month on Amazon than I've ever sold by twice. And mostly it's the new book and the second to last book, which are the most red pill of the books for sure. I'm part of a conference that's going on today. Started Wednesday. It's through today. Not sure when my video conference part will be delivered, but it's with Satya Stone and his bunch. People may be familiar with his work. He does really good work. He's got a police commissioner there who wants to indict Serco, which we're going to get into here, who Serco is, because I'm sure most people have never heard of this company. But that's what the conference is about. It's called 5G Extinction Event or something, and it's all about Serco, and they're focusing on Serco, this huge company that's controlled by the Crown that's pushing 5G forward almost single-handedly.
Okay, before we kind of get into the history, let's dive into that point right there, because this is significant news. It's very timely, right? What's happening in the UK with the commissioner, with Serco? Like, give us some perspective. What's happening behind the scenes on the accountability side of the 5G agenda?
Well, Satya is one of these guys and he's been at it a long time too. And I have this weird way of flying under the radar a lot. Part of it's I'm not a very good self-promoter. I just don't have time, and I'm not interested in it either. Part of it is I am constantly messed with. My website was crashed in 2014 by the NSA. It was traced back by an Intel friend of mine who knows that it came from Fort Huachuca, Arizona, very specifically. We know where it came from there. And my communications are constantly being disrupted, and so that's part of it. But Satya just came across my work, 6 months ago, and it started like with you, Josh, the article I wrote about Serco, and he is the kind of guy that goes to heads of state. He was helping Laurent Gbagbo, the ex-prime minister of the Ivory Coast, who was overthrowing a coup there. That was all about cocoa, Hershey's cocoa and Nestle's cocoa interests. So he's helping him right now in this international court. He approached this UK police commissioner who's I understand he's maybe the top guy, and the guy is sympathetic. He knows about the Illuminati. He knows about the bad guys. I mean, if you live in that crowd, you're going to see the pedophilia. You're going to see the drug running. You're going to see stuff that we don't see. And to them, it's not surprising. It's not red pill to them. It's just the way the elite operate. When you finally get settled into this stuff, you realize this is just par for the course. This Epstein thing is just the tip of the iceberg, you know. And by the way, Rupert Soames, who's CEO of Serco, was in Epstein's little black book, and he's Winston Churchill's grandson, and he's a Knight of the Order of the British Empire. That's his title. So anybody that says the British Empire has gone away, just look at Rupert Soames, just Wikipedia the guy, and it'll tell you his title, and then tell me that the British Empire really went away. See, it's all real sneaky. But anyway, so Satya found my work. He did another thing in LA, Dimensions of Disclosure conference with, I think David Wilcott was the main speaker, and Corey Good was there, and just those kind of people that, you know, like the alien kind of people who are great. And at that conference, I did another video cameo with Satya's speech. And he called me the greatest researcher in America. And he asked how many people have heard of this guy. And there's like 2 people in the audience that raised their hand. But now they all know about me. And I'm hoping that your list will know about me. Although I know a lot of people in your list know about me already, probably subscribers of mine, but all of them don't. So what I'm seeing happening, Josh, is people from all different sections right now are coming together, being pushed together by the Great Spirit, by the Wakantanka. And sometimes it's not pretty, and there's friction, and you have to work it out. But we're all being pushed together for a reason, because this really is the final push for the awareness. And if we can't get it across the finish line, and to do that, we're going to have to tell people the whole hard truth. There's no way around it. It's like a bear's running at you in the woods, and you just are in denial about it. Oh no, that bear's not running at me. I'm fine. No, we have to identify what's going on here completely, including the people perpetrating the crime, especially. It's like being against pedophilia, but not going after the pedophiles. I mean, you know, and that's kind of, I don't know, humanity's gotten kind of bowed down over the years. And that's a whole other thing with the Crown and how they did that. They used to behead people with guillotines. I'm talking about the same people that if you watch a History Channel documentary, watch one about the Plantagenets family. This is one of the 13 bloodlines. They changed their name to Tudor, now to Windsor. Same people. They change their names every 300 years to throw us off. And this is the Nephilim Crown bloodline that I'm talking about in this latest book that's behind 5G and Serco. But you look at the history of these barbarians, and they had the audacity to call Indians barbarians. And Indians never fought. Indians rarely went to war. They counted a coup. They had little skirmishes. They played tricks on each other, but they didn't do this kind of stuff. They never scalped. The Crown taught them how to scalp. Columbus was sponsored by the Crown. I mean, their entire history is littered with control of these people. So it's almost like an intergenerational terror where, like, maybe your great grandfather was literally beheaded, in France or, wherever Spain or wherever, for, not giving the king his whole wheat crop. Oh, I'll only give you half. Oh, off with his head. And these people literally, so it's almost like this intergenerational where it's in our DNA now to be scared of these people, not just be scared of them, but actually be taught that they're the people we should respect, because they hide behind the niceties. They hide behind the tea. They hide behind the nice way you talk. We're supposed to be smarter than us, And they hide behind all this stuff and all this ritual. If you notice the ritual, that's where you get into the Nephilim kind of steely reptilian kind of weirdness. Just notice the ritualistic way these people operate, and how, and this is some of the worst tyranny on our planet, is these people that operate that way. And again, they operate behind nicety, but on the other side of it, they're barbarians. So it's something we really, as a species now, have to snap out of.
Stockholm syndrome.
It is, exactly. That's exactly what it is, Josh. It's Stockholm syndrome.
So what is it in us that wants to, refuse to believe that in the existence of evil as such, like the existence of that that someone could be doing this, or there's either a force or an energy or whatever, or a group of people or whatever doing this on purpose to basically, what would you say? What's the purpose? To kill off most of humanity, or to dumb us down, or to extract as much energy and resource from us as possible, to make us like as low vitality as possible? Like, what's actually the agenda, and how can we snap out of it, like you say, right?
Yeah, all of those things are the agenda. They want to slow kill, extracting maximum energy from us. The energy happens. This is one of the big lies. Okay, so we got to get into a little bit to the big lie. And there's a thing called the seven sacred sciences that has been promoted by the Nephilim bloodlines. And let me just give people a quick history of what we're talking about here. We're talking about an intervention on humanity about 8,000 years ago in Sumeria, maybe before that. But this is as far back as we know. Now, we actually have documentation of this. They're called the Sumerian clay tablets. They've been studied by many, many scholars, including, Jeremiah Sitchin, London School of Economics, probably the foremost.
Book of Enoch, is that where the Book of Enoch comes from, essentially?
Yeah, the Book of Enoch it talks about the giants, and that's what we're dealing with. And it was deleted kind of from the Bible by the editors of the Bible, we could say. The Old Testament talks a lot more about the Nephilim. The New Testament, not so much, but hey, it's in the first chapter of Genesis, the first paragraph of Genesis. It talks about the Nephilim. And so I think there's two different creation stories in the Bible. First of all, I think Indians are immune from the creation story. Native Americans, Native Canadians, Aboriginal people, at least in this part of the world, are immune from that whole kind of hell story about the Bible, because they didn't experience it. That the intervention here didn't happen till Columbus, till we came to them with our Wetiko disease that we had been inculcated with by these people. But in the Middle East, it was real. So for us, that's a real history. I used to throw the whole Bible out and say, oh yeah, that's because I was, Roman Catholic. I was an altar boy. I thought about being a priest, because I've always wanted to do the right thing. Okay, but then I realized the corruption in the Catholic Church. No, I can't do that. And I don't go to church anymore. And I'm not religious. I've learned most of my spiritual stuff from the Indians, okay? And so, but that's here nor there. But the thing is, so Sumeria, we have documentation of that. We have the Bible talking about Genesis 6, which is one creation story, which is where men and women were created together after the earth, after the plants, the animals, everything we needed to survive, in other words, after the sky, after, everything. Then we came together. And then there's the other story where it's Adam came, and then Eve was his rib, and all this kind of, and then that's the intervention. That's where the serpent tempted him. Serpent is the Nephilim, the ancients, the mystery schools, all the same things. Babylon.
Is that the genetic manipulation, you think, that happened there?
I think it's also the genetic manipulation. And my personal feeling, and I don't know anybody else that really thinks this, but I kind of think, just at a gut level, that we're talking about Aryan people, white people. We're talking about white people that were hybridized. I think the blacks and the Indians escaped this somehow because they just seem more chill. They just seem more like, they don't care about climbing a corporate ladder. They don't care about running a group. They don't care about, they just want to play cards and not make a lot of money and just live simple and hang out with their family. And they just don't have this kind of, I don't know, like, it's amazing to me how there's all this racism towards black and brown people in the world. And I never feel it back from them. I never feel like they hate us. They hate, I hate white people. You just don't get that. So anyway, that's just my thing. Now that's something, just my thing. It's just an opinion, but something did happen. Yeah. The DNA was manipulated. We took a bite out of the apple. I think the symbolism is more important. Like, I look at Jesus like a symbol, like a metaphor, because, the Bible's all about parables and symbolism. And, you can't take it all literally, which is what the evangelicals do. The Christian Zionists is really what they are. They're going down the wrong road, but you take it the way, the truth, and the light. So Jesus, the way, the truth, and light. That Genesis 6 story talks about a hunting and gathering environment. I mean, you can tell by the way it's described that when we were created to be hunters and gatherers. So what did Jesus do? He moved around in the mountains. He never had a home. He had very few possessions. He fished. He was a nomad. He said, leave your possessions and follow me. And he meant it, literally. So Jesus was kind of an Indian. And that's the way. That's what we're naturally supposed to be. And that's where in Samaria, after the intervention, we were herded, and it says this on the clay tablets. We were basically, they talk about being forced into agriculture to feed the cities of Babylon and Ur and those evil cities where all the religions and the mystery schools and even spirituality itself was sort of developed, and the Tower of Babel and the inversion of reality and all that stuff. And ostensibly, headed by Nephilim hybrids, who were in charge and forcing these people into agriculture. And that's a huge question, in anthropological circles, because I studied a lot of anthropology in college. Like, why did we go to agriculture? It's so much more work than hunting and gathering. It doesn't make sense. It's bad for the earth. It keeps us sedentary instead of happy and semi-nomadic and travel around and check things out. And we did anyway. So that explains that whole anthropological riddle, if that's true. Then from Ur and Babylon, these people went to Egypt. They didn't build the pyramids. I think the Moors probably built them, a black Muslim culture, which is discredited historically all the time because they're black, and these people are Nazis. They're white supremacists. The crown is the origin of white supremacy, whatever these things are. So they topped off the pyramids, took credit for them, and they were the Pharaohs. They were the Pharaohs in Egypt. The Nag Hammadi scrolls emerged. They call them archons. Now the Sumerian tablets call them Anunnaki. Okay, the Bible calls them Nephilim or fallen angels. Or some people say the Nephilim are actually the offspring of the fallen angels, mating with Eve as representing human females. Either way, we took a bite of the apple, and that's significant in terms of the parable, because what that means is we learn to worship sort of our intellect or the technology instead of our heart chakra. We're operating on a very intellectual level, and computers exacerbate this. And 5G will put it on steroids and virtually shut down your heart chakra because it's messing with the electricity that you already have naturally. So it's about that temptation of man to think he's smarter than God. And that's where we're at right now. If you look at Ray Kurzweil or Elon Musk or these people who are developing this stuff at DARPA, I mean, they're mad scientists. I mean, they think they're smarter than God. Whatever your God is, none of my business. I'm not like that. But whatever your God is, they think they're smarter than that. And they think we're the gods. And they even say it now, kind of. So this is all part of the compromise and down through the ages. So, okay, the Pharaohs of Egypt, they burned the library at Alexandria with Nag Hammadi scrolls. They thought were in it. They were actually buried, thankfully. And I think they burned that for a reason because, again, they changed their names. So Isis and Ramses and all these Horus, they become, they become the Habsburgs maybe. They become the Aldobrandines maybe, who run the Holy Roman Empire. These different families, they develop the Holy Roman Empire. And how they do that is by the Knights Templar ships that they control, because this is the first navy really in the world. This is the first significant navy. Knights Templar also developed banking as we know it. A credit system. They would get the pilgrims to the Middle East going on their sojourns, and they would get them into debt. And it would be like a company store where they owed them money. And it was almost like the first credit card or bond system, in the world, the first banking system. The first time we had this hierarchy of money and then the people. So they went around the world with their ships. They looted all the silver, rubies, gems, whatever they could find from native people everywhere, and they brought it to Europe and for the crown in the Holy Roman Empire. And this is the wealth of the Holy Roman Empire. This is what it's based on. And yeah, then you start getting.
Do you see the Knights Templar as exclusively on the agendist side, or did they have a component that wanted to actually to liberate humanity and human consciousness?
I'm sure they did, man. It's just like the Masons and everything else. There's a lot of good people in the Masons, and I'm sure there's good people in the Templars. It's all compartmentalized. These are all intelligence services. You know, it's the CIA, and you could say it two ways. The CIA and the MI6 are secret societies. You could also say the Freemasons and the Knights Templar are intelligence services. However you want to say it, it's both. They're all both. And they're all ultimately working for the crown's interest, which is why the Duke of York heads all Freemason lodges officially in the world. And, you know, that's the Queen's brother or whatever. So,
were there any, though, positive, like you could say light-centric, freedom-centric brotherhoods or secret societies, for lack of it?
No, I mean, there may have been, but this is one of the biggest pieces of propaganda, I think, especially kind of in the New Age movement. You hear this, you know, all about avatars and all about, you know, ascension and enlightenment. And I'm really leery about all this stuff. First of all, because I saw a copy of the first New Age magazine. I actually, it was a picture of it in one of Alex Constantine's book called Psychic Dictatorship. I don't know if you ever read that. It's back in the 80s. Excellent book. One of the first books that really got into the mind control stuff.
I heard that what's his name? Kissinger was involved in the seeding of it. Eh?
The founding of the New Age movement. Exactly.
Why is it so disempowering?
Well, because it basically throws right and wrong out the window. And it makes people open and tolerant to some really evil things. Now, open and tolerant are good words, but this is what they do. They turn good words into bad words. Just like now we have a whistleblower on Trump. And all of a sudden, even though they hung Julian Assange and Eric Snowden and everybody else that's a whistleblower, throw them in jail, hang them out to dry. All of a sudden, they're using the word whistleblower to make this person sound like some savior. They're using climate change against environmentalism, which is a good thing. I'm a huge environmentalist, but I also know climate change is an agenda. So this is the Luciferian, Sabbatean inversion of right and wrong. And this is what the New Age is all about. And it's also to get people to believe they're not grounded anymore. Like, they compare themselves to Indians, but they're nothing like Indians. You have to understand the crown are Druids. They're pagans. The Indians aren't pagans to my mind. And I think most Indians would tell you that too. They're not pagans. They're animists. Pagan is about ritual. I don't know any Indians that celebrate Beltane. You know, Beltane was when they burned little children and sacrificed them. And that's what the cult of Baal was all about. And Baal was a fallen angel. And lately you have this statue of this arch of Baal being taken around in New York, London, Dubai, and Florence, Italy, Venetian bankers, and being glorified. And this was a Nephilim god, the Baal, you know, and Beltane and all these ritualistic pagan holidays come from the Nephilim. You know, I'm not into ritual of any kind, and because the ritual takes people out of their own mind. They quit, you know, they put their faith in somebody else, and it's a dangerous place. You always want to keep your wits about you and keep your own brain, and don't fall into that. But so anyway, the New Age kind of does that, and yeah, it talks about the kind of the aliens in a good way. You know what I mean? Like, there's a lot of that going on. I don't trust anybody that talks about aliens in a good way. To me, the Nephilim, the Anunnaki, Muslims call them jinn, the Cree call them Wendigos, the Apache call them Watikos, the Hopi call them starmen, David Icke calls them archons, Nag Hammadi scroll, fallen angels, Nephilim, whatever. There's no difference to me between that and an alien.
Okay, let me ask you about this, though, because even in the Bible, there's angels, right? There's angels and demons, like quite dualistic perspective, perhaps, but maybe it's true from one perspective. Maybe it's true just like in all perspectives. I don't know, but there seems to be reference, and we seem to have helper beings in higher dimensions. And it seems like those helper beings come when we stand for what's right, when we align ourselves with right action and so forth, and when we pray, when we meditate. It's not like we're connecting with like a void or like nothingness or making it all up. It seems to me in this sort of, down here it's duality, right? And it seems to me that there is light and there's dark expressions of a thing, and it's even in us. It's that virus or whatever, that darkness is in us as much as it's in the world. So we're trying to sort the world out without sorting ourselves out. It can get kind of dicey if we're not doing that internal work, right? But I'm getting off track. My point is this: is that it seems like there are benevolent beings, let's say in higher dimensions, and negative beings in higher dimensions. So, and I would suggest that our will and our intention and what we focus on and what we choose to connect with really has a more power than we think, as far as like what we are going to or whom or what aspect of ourself, perhaps from another perspective, we're going to connect with. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, absolutely. There's a higher consciousness out there. I tend to think it's just a lot simpler than people turn it into. And like native, like for example, Lakota people, Wakantanka, they call it. It's an unexplainable. They call it the Great Spirit too, because it's unexplainable. It's not a little white guy thing. It's not angels out there floating around. See, the whole idea that somehow like heaven is out in the universe, out in the sky, even, that's kind of weird. Like Indians don't believe that. They literally believe they came up out of the ground like plants. And all they have is like Mother Earth, Father Sky, and then just one creator. They're not a pantheistic religion.
And that they are the bridge between Mother Earth and Father Sky, right? They see themselves as world bridgers, right?
They're just all gifts, but there's only one creator, and that's the Wakantanka, and we can't describe it. They say we just don't. It's so awesome we can't describe it, and that's the power you tap into. Yeah, when you're trying to do the right thing, but it's right here on Earth with us. It's we don't have to go out into outer space or heaven, or we can just do that right here. But they're the ones, again, the Luciferians with their 7 sacred sciences administered by the Royal Society have gotten us, and religion is part of it. Yes, it's a fraud, and science is a fraud. The Big Bang Theory, we have evidence about Sumerian clay tablets. What do you have on your Big Bang Theory? Can you give us any documented evidence? No, of course not. 4.5 billion years ago, of course not. There's no documented evidence of that at all. Particle physics, can you no, it's all about electricity, plasma, being a fourth, there's solid, liquid, gas, and plasma, we're finding out. This is being accepted now by many PhD scientists. That was a lie, that somehow there's these little particles and you got to keep looking for them, and like they're doing at CERN, and we'll find the God particle eventually. No, they won't. They'll just blow everything up because they're just arrogant. So in other words, all of these, whether it's a Royal Physics Society, whether it's a Royal Astronomy Society, whether it's the National Geographic Society, which tells us to lie about evolution, how we came from monkeys. I know that because I studied enough anthropology to know that Ramapithecus was as close as they ever got to the link between humans and great apes, and it's not very close. So that's a theory. That's why evolution is a theory, and yet all these people, especially on the kind of liberal, smug left, they get up on their pedestals and they want to, you people are crazy. You talk about creation theory. You people are well, I mean, I'm not a Bible thumper, but I'm going to tell you something. I would much rather at least look at the evidence in Sumeria, the evidence in the Nag Hammadi scrolls, the evidence presented by every single religious tradition, whether it's the Hindu religion with the Vimana, the flying, craft. All these traditions talk about this other thing that happened, this intervention, this great flood that came to wipe out these Nephilim, because some survived, and the giants, and now we find the elongated skulls, and that's more evidence. And yet the Royal Society, yes, Holy Crown, in the city of London at Chatham House, this is the location of this place, lies about it and tells us no, it's evolution. And they lie about, so science, in other words, is a fraud. And the 7 sacred sciences, astronomy, mathematics, geometry, sacred geometry, rhetoric, logic, grammar, and music. And so what they've done is they've taken what they call the 7 sacred sciences, which was given to them in the Babylonian mystery schools, probably by the Nephilim, fallen angels, to deceive humanity. So in other words, we are so deceived by religion, by science, almost everything we think we know, we don't know. We've been lied to. So that's how they do that with the Royal Society. And you know, it's always the authority. It's always like the Lancet Journal of Medicine. That's another one. I mean,
Right.
they are considered the authority in the world for everything. Why? You have to ask yourself why.
You
Why
know,
they get to decide what
yeah.
is true or not. Um,
It seems like, okay, yeah. I mean, just from my own perspective and my own experience, even going back several years when I made the movie Take Back Your Power, exposing the smart meter agenda. It was released in 2013. We had there was just so much resistance to it getting out there in a big way, Dean. Like it was weird, some of the stuff that happened. I mean, we had like nationwide coverage, media lined up, and two-part interview lined up with myself and some other experts, and then that was all written. The journalist was super stoked to break the story, and then canceled at the editor-in-chief level, right? And so, and even with this, with 5G, it's just like when somebody looks into it, you can instantly, or in a few minutes, see that there's something not right about this agenda and the way that it's being pushed, you know, without even the industry doing any science. And then you find out there's all this other science that's been done, and like then you go, why? Well, why? But despite that common sense pathway that seems to be available to people that are thinking clearly for themselves, maybe that's the key, we haven't had yet to this point like big support from like federal, you know, organizations, let's say like big, you know, awareness organizations that are funded by these big, what I would call pendulums, or you know, these big philanthropists, let's say. And so it's like we're like, you know, swimming upstream. We're trying to go against the tide and trying to get this message out. But a lot of people are awakening. Bring us up to speed now as far as like, let's get back to the current time. 5G, it's technological agenda. Who's behind it? Start getting into that. What's going on behind the scenes, Dean? That everyone who has become aware of 5G through the summit and elsewhere needs to know about. What's the next things we need to know about here?
Sure. Okay, so you know, having that background, you know, and having studied ancient history and you know, kind of the economics of the oligarchy and who owns who and everything, I came across this company called Serco. So it all goes back to Marconi with the telegraph, and Guglielmo Marconi, who interestingly enough was also a royal. He was, I can't remember the title, Google it, but it's a count or a baron. He was some, you know, he had a title. So he himself was from the bloodlines from Italy. But anyway, Marconi came up with the telegraph. That was really the first long distance communication device that has led to what we're looking at today. So what happened? So RCA Corporation, Radio Corporation of America, but not an American company, owned a golden share again by the Queen, a British crown company, basically stole Marconi's stuff and weaponized it into sonar, which is the first use of wireless technology. The very first use of this wireless technology is a weapon system called sonar, you know, to detect submarines, whatever. So then RCA, in 1929, RCA spawns General Electric and Serco. And this is the year Serco was founded. General Electric, as you probably know, Josh, makes a lot of smart meters. Mm-hmm. And they're also, by virtue of coming out of RCA, a crown agent. Serco, in 1999, they got a hold of this Richard Walker patent, and he was working with HP at the time, and moved on to Agilent. And then with Agilent, they seemed to be funneling. Walker had the first Internet of Things contract, patent on any technology that relates to the Internet of Things or 5G. So Serco also has the contract to run the U.S. Patent Office under Commerce Secretary Wilbur Ross, who was a Rothschild banker who basically cut the deal with Trump to get him out of bankruptcy, cut his debt in half, and then the Rothschild Bank gets the entire Atlantic City boardwalk to do its funny business. And probably Trump was promised the presidency. Wilbur Ross was also with Invesco and NBNK Corporation, which the day Facebook started shut down. It was the City of London operation. people on the board were like the chairman of Lloyd's Bank, the chairman of HSBC, some really high people, sir, this and that. It's in my book. I don't remember the names of these guys right offhand, but very interesting bunch. And the very day Facebook started, they shut down. Also, the very day Facebook started, DARPA's program called LifeLog shut down, very same day. And so this was all a military operation from the get-go, all of these things. But Serco has monopolized the 5G patents, in other words, using their authority over the Commerce Office, and they funnel it all into Agilent. And yes, the Israelis are the contractor for the most part. They're coming up with most of this technology, Unit 8200 in Israel, the Talpiot program. And that Lockheed Martin is very close to Serco. Serco and Lockheed Martin, together they own 2/3 of the UK atomic weapons establishment. And again, the Queen has a golden share in Serco. She has the final decision on all matters Serco. So Serco also controls 63 air traffic control towers in the United States. They control all the air traffic in and out of the GCC countries in the Middle East that I talked about earlier. They control private prisons in Australia. They control the immigration service in the UK. They control the driver's license offices in many cities, including Toronto. They control vaccination records contract with the Health and Human Services Department in this country. They control prison records with the Justice Department. They control military records with the Pentagon. They have contracts for security on the FBI, the CIA, the Marines, the Army, the Air Force, the Navy. These guys are big data.
So you're talking about Serco. It's a company based in London, City of London. Is that right?
City of London.
And who's it? And who exactly is it owned by? The Crown?
It has the golden share, and it's owned by the royals. It's a Crown corporation. There's actually a thing called Crown Agent Corporations. And if you just Google Crown Agents USA or Crown Agents UK, you'll get to their website. And they're not going to tell you much, but Aga Khan Foundation, that I talked about earlier, that manufactures all the fake Islamists, that's a Crown corporation. Securicom, which is now Stratosec, that they're the ones that came into the World Trade Center, shut down the elevator shafts on certain floors on certain days, 6 weeks ahead of 9/11, and supposedly did maintenance, but was actually mining them. That's a Crown Agent Corporation. Lockheed Martin, General Electric, RCA, Crown Agent Corporation. Serco, Crown Agent Corporation, officially. So
what about Crown Castle? Crown Castle is another name that keeps coming up.
What's technically a Crown Agent Corporation, but yes, I wrote it's in my book as well as a chapter on Crown Castle. And Crown Castle is also located on Fleet Street. I'm assuming it's a Crown Agent Corporation because the name Crown Castle. And it's kind of creepy because it's like, is it checkmate time? Everybody's played chess, right? And you know how that works. So they're located on Fleet Street. They're the ones that have put up all the cell towers, all the cell towers in the United States. They're also put them all up in the UK. And the kicker is Serco controls a pathology lab in the UK, where I suppose they're going to study the effects of this slow kill program that's going to happen. But the bigger thing is they control the data. So when 5G gets rolled out, and it's being rolled out, by the telecoms, by Verizon, by AT&T. But with the 5G technology, they're going to be able to plug in all this information about your driver's license records, about your military records, about everything, how many vaccinations. They're going to be able to have all that into this 5G big data system so that they can tailor not only the information they're getting from you, but they can tailor the information coming back to you. And I think this is one of the big things about technology in general, 5G, that's not being talked about, is how it's already being used for mind control. I mean, IBM created the first computer. IBM helped Hitler kill the Jews at Auschwitz. I mean, a lot with their chemicals, and they've been able from the get-go. International business machine. So again, I've never studied the ownership of IBM extensively, but international business machines. It's probably not an American company. So even though it's sold as such, but suffice it to say, when they came out with the computer, even in 1963, went to John F. Kennedy's regulators, they were like, no, sorry, you can't release the computer even to the public. This is something that could be used as a disinformation platform to destroy entire populations and countries of people. Sorry, we can't let you release. So
that was before these beings or entities or these forces fully took over government agencies, right?
Yeah, I mean, I guess so. And of course, they killed Kennedy, so maybe not. maybe that's a bigger part of the reason they killed him than we think.
Seems like he was the last. Seems like he was the last real president. He was the last one who actually had good intentions for the people. Yeah.
He was, and he also tried to nationalize the Federal Reserve, which is going to be the key to all of our liberation. See, to me, Josh, to take down 5G is fine, but I want to take down the entire crown, the banking cartel, everything in one fell swoop. And I think this is opportunity to do it, really, 5G. But yeah, Kennedy was the last good president. And so anyway, after that, what happened was then in the 90s, the NSA started messing around with the internet, DARPA. It came from DARPA. DARPA, all the research was done at Lawrence Livermore Laboratories in the 70s. It was a weapons system from the very beginning. And the NSA people that have since talked about it, when they released the internet in the mid-90s to the public, these guys were shocked. They're like, no, man, this was an in-house disinformation thing that we were using against the Soviets or against the Chinese or, against foreign enemies of the United States. We never in our wildest dreams thought the internet would be released to the public, but it was. But by the time it was, every Intel chip had been compromised. And this goes back to the promised software theft from Inslaw Corporation that the Israelis got a hold of, put a backdoor in every chip. And so basically your computer, whether you're on the internet or not, the NSA has access to it already through that chip, not through the internet, just through the chip on your computer that everybody has. It's all Intel chips. AMD is the other one now. I'm sure that it's compromised as well. They call this an aggressive remote control chip. That's what Intel calls it. And Cisco is a big part of it. They have a thing, if you go to IBM's website, they just talk about it openly. It's called the Beast. It's called the Beast. And it's a Cisco operating system. Cisco is known as the golden child of the NSA. They've always worked with the intelligence people. So then Google. Okay, Google in their thank you speech, the two guys that founded Google, can't remember their names, they thanked DARPA for the seed money. It was founded at the Stanford Research Institute in California. And the Stanford Research Institute was a military-run institute that was all about improving signals operations capacity for the U.S. military post-World War II. All of that Stanford research stuff, including Google, including Yahoo, which came out of SoftBank, which is a Japanese bank that's funding virtually all the 5G technology stuff, owned by royal families and people from all the world, including the Emperor of Japan. It's called SoftBank. Check into this SoftBank. And it's interesting, the name SoftBank. Oh, fuzzy SoftBank, like fuzzy Microsoft, small and soft. Yeah, right. So again, they're just messing with us there. But all this stuff became Silicon Valley. So what I'm saying is, to my mind, Silicon Valley is a military base for the crown. And that basically, you trace it to Crown Castle, you trace it to Serco, you trace it to GE and the smart meters. All the companies are involved seem to be Crown agents or Crown affiliates. And it's not a government thing. This 5G is not a government thing. I mean, yes, they buy off Tom Wheeler, and he says nutty things on TV, and they buy off Trump, and they buy off politicians, of course. But this is not, some people call it the deep state, right? Peter Dale Scott, fellow Canadian of yours, who he's a good guy. He got me a long ways down the road on the Afghanistan, Golden Crescent CIA drug research. He coined the term deep state. What I call the deep state is the city of London, because it's not deep, it's shallow, it's not very many people, and it's not a state. It's a cartel. It's a private cartel. The privatization of our entire economies, which has been a trend since Reagan and Thatcher, has opened the door to these contractors. And it's the contractors like Serco, service company. I'm pretty sure that means service company. It's an intentionally boring name. Like Brinco was the name they used when they assassinated Kennedy out of Jamaica. That's a whole nother subject, because these are the same people who killed our president, who did 9/11, and now they're doing 5G. But Brinco, that was the name they used in Jamaica to run out of the Tyndall compound. And Sir William Stephenson ran that operation for MI6 to kill Kennedy, using the Cubans, yes, using the CIA, yes, using the Israelis, yes. But he ran it. David Sarnoff of RCA helped him a whole bunch, RCA again. And that's James Bond. That's 007, William Stephenson, Intrepid. And Ian Fleming, who makes the James Bond movies, was also an MI6 agent. But every time you watch a James Bond movie, you're literally seeing the glorification of the guy that plotted the Kennedy assassination. So this is how deep the programming goes.
Okay, how does Okay, so talk about this idea pathway if you could. 5G, artificial intelligence, Internet of Things, transhumanism. How does that?
Yeah.
How do you see that?
Good progression. That's where to go next. So yeah, anyway, I think the idea, this is why you're seeing crazy things like the Pritzker family, which owns the Hyatt hotel chain. Penny Pritzker is Trump's Secretary of, I don't even remember, education maybe. That's Eric Prince's sister from Blackwater. Speaking of bad contractors, they're funding almost exclusively the transgender movement. This is a well-funded movement. These are right-wing Republican billionaires. What are they doing funding this transgender movement, which they're trying to get the liberal left to push forward? What's going on here? So to me, that's a stepping stone, and I have nothing against, obviously, any of those these people have been with us forever. A lot of native tribes consider them the wise people. We went to them for advice. I mean, I've been to Thailand like 9 times. I mean, girly boys are all over, and everybody accepts them, and it's very cool. But when it starts to be an agenda, and they start taking your kids away because you won't let them change into a girl at age 3 or whatever, then it gets kind of weird. So I think it's a stepping stone to the transhuman agenda. And again, it's this kind of openness, this tolerance, and that's not necessarily a good thing right now, to just open your mind and be accepting of anything right now, because they're really bringing about, I mean, just like climate change. Okay, so yeah, we're not supposed to eat beef anymore. So Burger King comes out with this Impossible Whopper, which is like genetically engineered bacteria, probably made by Monsanto. That's really good. So what, are the vegans just going to go down and mop that up? I hope not. My God, and at the same time, you have, scientists in Sweden giving lectures on, cannibalism, and how, well, maybe that'd be a way to save the climate.
Yeah.
It's just insane. So
and this one, Dean, I've heard more about this, is like pedophilia being officialized and like categorized as a sexual orientation. Yeah. That's offensive to any parent and just to life in general. Like, that's unbelievable that they're actually going, that this is like in mainstream media publications. This idea is being floated now.
I know. I tell my family and stuff about this, and they're like, "Oh, there's Dean the crazy conspiracy." I'm like, "No, just watch ABC News." There it is. I mean, this is the great unveiling. They're really, see, what I think really, Josh, is AI are the aliens, are the Nephilim. It's like synonymous. You can't separate, again, the ancients, the technology. Oh, how could they build these things? Oh, they were so, sacred geometry. What above, so below, or the same thing. No, it's not. It's not the same thing at all. And duality, it's all BS. And that's not our nature. My argument is that we're not naturally any of that stuff. That's the stuff they put on us. They want us to hate ourselves, hate humanity, hate who we are, because they're not natural. They're not from here, and they're here for a short time. If Revelations is right, they were cast out of heaven in a war with the good angels, and there were a few, but actually most of the angels were not so good, because God gave us dominion over the earth, and that's what that means in Genesis. I'm learning. I used to, as a kind of a leftist, I used to, we take offense to that. Oh, dominion over the earth, that means, trash the planet. No, it just means humanity was given dominion, not the angels. And that's what pissed them off, and that's why they went rogue, and, Lucifer led them in their revolt. So they've been cast out of heaven now. The war's already happened, I think, in heaven, and they're here. And now what they're doing with the AI, which is them or from them or synonymous with them really, is they're making us sort of fake intellectual, steely, cold society with facts. Alvin Toffler, Future Shop. That was a predictive programming book that came out in like 95, right as the internet was being rolled out. And the book is all about how like people would be bombarded with information and would lose their way, and their minds would be fragmented. It was a bestseller, and they would lose their way. And that's what's happening. People are losing their way. They can't make decisions. They don't know how to change a tire. They got to Google it. They're becoming dependent on this thing. And it's all, to me, sort of like part of this initiation process where the Nephilim are seriously, the crown is seriously trying, and just like I say with pedophilia, they are literally trying to initiate us into their way, their demonic Luciferian way of thinking about morals, thinking about, right and wrong. and it's being done with the screens. Now they've been doing that with TV already for years. You know,
And the CEO of Google has actually said that the plan for in the future to have on the human body, either wearables or on skin or embedded or whatever, 10 IPs as part of the Internet of Things. Yeah. It's like, so transhumanism, right? Like, so specifically, is how clear are you on that being part of the agenda? Is there specifically an agenda to make this world like the movie Matrix in 1997, which was an amazing movie, but even was it like predictive programming? I mean, what's your thoughts about this whole man and machine? And you have Elon Musk talking about his biggest fear is AI is going to take over, but yet he's launching thousands of 5G AI Internet of Things satellites and just being part of this whole thing. So let's hone in on some of these topics as we need to wrap up in a few minutes though.
Yeah, with a lot of help from Serco, by the way, on the satellites, because Serco also has contracts with the U.S. Space Agency through Aerospace Corporation and Eurosat. So Serco is key to getting these satellites up for him, and also, as I understand it, Amazon's doing it now. Here's what I think: the chemtrails, they've aerosolized nanoparticles, nanobots. There's aluminum and there's barium coming down. If you put barium and aluminum together, the signs BAAL, BAL. Probably not a coincidence.
And so, isn't it interesting that, sorry to interrupt, Dean, but isn't it interesting, like you said, Serco owns the air traffic control, at all the airports, right? So who do you think opens the doors for this geoengineering agenda to happen?
Exactly right.
Unreported, right?
Again, it's the contractors. It's not the U.S. Air Force, and they have this evil policy. No. It's the contractors, and yes, they have agents in the Air Force. They're probably all Masons, sworn to the crown, even if they don't know it, whatever it is. But yeah, exactly. And so you got this just right out in your face. They're aerosolizing this nanobots. It's all about nanotechnology. That's the key to this whole AI thing. This is what really gets us in trouble. So these nano particles are in everything now: food, water. You're breathing them in. They're literally turning into, they go in your body and apparently they turn into like antenna. They make you an antenna. Yeah, they make you an IP. And by the way, IP, interesting that the UK Patent Office is also called IP. That's the acronym for the UK Patent Office, Institute for Patents. It's just called the Institute for Patents. Very powerful. So I wonder if the whole IP thing on the internet is straight out of them, and if the whole thing did, not just 5G, but if the whole thing didn't come from them, if they're basically claiming patent over everything on the internet, and we just don't know it yet until they just say, "Hey, sorry, Josh, you're shut down. We have the patent." Sorry, and that's a possibility too. So the whole
another expression of IP is intellectual property, right? So they're implicitly claiming the intellectual property of everything, and eventually people. It's pretty crazy, but okay. Bring us, help us connect a few more of these dots here, Dean.
Yeah. So anyway, when that stuff gets in you and you're an antenna, it sends signals back to, as I understand it, there's a series, HARP didn't shut down. They just miniaturized it with nanotechnology like they're doing everything. And there's now hundreds of HARP locations in the world. And what I understand it is through the HARP and the satellites and the nano stuff, and you're sending them everything about you, including your DNA, including what diseases you might be vulnerable towards, your blood type, obviously, just everything about you is being sent into this database. And some people say they're actually making a double of you somewhere, could be. But not only that, but again, when they have all of that from you, when they also have your Facebook profile, which is going to show them your weaknesses, your tendencies, your predilections, your hobbies, what music you like, everything. And that's an NSA profile that everybody did on Facebook. I hope everybody is aware of that now. Maybe, if not by now, boy, we could get into that, but that takes a lot longer. But Facebook is just a data collection thing for the 5G. So anyway, when they have all that and they know all that about you, then they can start tailoring messages to you. And this is where they want to go with this. They want to take MK Ultra and make it what it originally was in 46, which was just called Ultra. And this was 46 when the Tavistock Institute was created in Britain, when the MI6 was created. Next year, the CIA is created as a junior partner, I might add, to the MI6. It was always the idea. CIA works for the British Crown. They don't work for the American people. Okay, so that was a huge year. A lot of stuff happened that year in 47. And that's really where they put into play this Operation Ultra, eventually it would be called. And this is what it is. It's not just an individual being Manchurian, a candidate out now. It's an entire society, an entire world that they can literally know what you want to hear and tell it to you to make you believe other things about, they said that, and I like that, so their agenda must be good. And they are literally messing with people's minds. They're already doing it. But when they have the 5G capability to hit you with the cloud all day, every day, and the cloud, I mean, think about the name, the cloud. What is, the cloud? What does that mean? Is it the cloud of radiation you're spreading over this planet to disrupt our natural frequencies so we can't think straight, so we can't decide right from wrong? Is that what the cloud means? Or, what exactly is it mean something in heaven is it a fallen angel, alien thing? Why is it up there in the cloud? I mean, all of the language that they use, your inbox, your email inbox, it's like a prisoner who's built a prison by himself, an electronic prison, and there's your inbox, prisoner. Here's what you get today for food, and if you just think about all of the different terminology that they're put a post on Facebook. Oh yeah, put a post down, then you can build a fence between you and your family and your neighbors, and you can fight each other, and you can lose your natural connection to that person, never call them anymore, never talk in person, never visit them, just get on Facebook and just tell everybody everything all the time. So, I mean, it's really so many things about not just 5G, but about technology and about social media and about what's going on that really are not healthy and not good for people. And the only, and I know, the way we use it now, it's like jujitsu. We're doing jujitsu. We're using their weapon against them. And I do it every day when I write my column, and I do it, with what I do too. But at some point, I'm just going to say that for me, it's better off if this all goes away someday. We fix it, and then it just goes away. And then me and you don't have to be stressed out about 3 interviews a day. And we don't have to answer everybody's emails, and we can go live like the Indians again. Because the Indians are going to be the ones that show us the way out of this, their way of thinking. And that involves going outside, talking to the animals, talking to the trees, talking to the rocks, and listening back to, not just talk, but listening, and then comprehending, and then, making your life's decision based on what you sense, what you hear, what nature tells you. We've lost that instinct. We've lost that ability to really, get there and understand true reality, which is so much different from this virtual reality that didn't just come with computers, but they've actually been, dosing us with virtual reality for a very long time now. That's what the Wizard of Oz is about. So what we hope here is we can pull back the curtain on the wizard and show people that this crown, you don't have to be scared of it. You don't have to worry just because your grandpa got his, head cut off, Sorry.
Why don't we have to be scared of it? How come you can be doing what you're doing without getting taken out? Are there certain rules or directives from higher up that are making a way for humanity? And and if so, is it time to really choose, what side we're going to be on, for lack of a better term? Because it seems like there's like a potential bifurcation in right? Is that what's happening?
Definitely going on. I mean, you're seeing one bunch of people go this way. It's huge. It's an interstate. It's packed. It's a traffic jam. They're all confused. They're frustrated. They're mad. They're angry. They're sad. They want to kill themselves. And you're seeing a few people going this way on this quiet path, this way. But we're also finding each other now. We're finding each other. We're on that path together. And yes, if we have faith in the Great Spirit, in whatever you want to call it, the right order of the universe, or whatever you want to call it. It's none of my business, man, what people's spiritual beliefs are, man. Or I just call it right action. I just think you go on a right action path, you get instant karma everywhere you go, or you get it the other way. I mean, not even karma, because karma is really all bad. You don't get karma. You get a clear path. If you're on the right path, your path stays clear. But that involves 100% courage, 100% no fear, 100% love, because love and fear can't exist together. You have to either pick your side, love or fear. That's what it is. It's just that simple. Pick where you want to be. You want to be with love, or do you want to be with fear? Because there is coming a time where there's no middle ground. There's no, I'm a little bit scared. I love a little bit. No, you either got to be 100% love or 100% fear. And what I do with this shocking information, yes, it's shocking, but trust me, I do it out of love, 100% love, and I do my best. And because we have to, I mean, we have to acknowledge the reality. And once we do that, it's really joyful and happy. My life I can't tell you how awesome my life is most days, and how that path just opens up every day. Things come to me. I can't explain that. And people think, oh, you must be so depressed thinking about this. No, no, I'm happy. I'm a happy person. I mean, and yes, roadblocks come, and people, largely it's just the unbelievers get in your way, and you're like, and they want to ridicule you maybe, or mock you, or bring you down, but it doesn't even matter anymore. I don't care. I just realize that I just keep going on this path, and I let the traffic jam go that way. And and I don't worry about winning or losing this either. Honestly, Josh, I don't think about it in terms of win or lose. I think about it like I already won. In my mind, if I do what my integrity calls for, if I do what my Creator calls for, having my integrity, I've already won. Because I believe in something beyond here. Mm-hmm. But I'm telling you, man, don't go into that transhuman cul-de-sac, people, because that's where you might not go anywhere. That's where, I mean, if they literally take away your soul, man, because they don't think we have souls. They never have. I mean, these Freemason, Luciferian, City of London bankers, they don't believe we have souls. That's why they're okay with pedophilia and stuff and all this crazy stuff, because they just think it's not real. Well, it is real. And if you go transhuman in any way, Neuralink or any of this crazy stuff, man, you may not go on.
It's amazing how that links in with like the book of Revelation in the Bible, right? About the chip, the mark on the forehead, and all that stuff, and the separation kind of that happens in humanity, and how basically most of the world is going to go a certain way. I mean, I'm not certainly not a fundamentalist, religious person. I really resonate with the esoteric way, the way of Christ, and the teachings, like you mentioned, the Nag Hammadi scrolls, and so forth. But just in closing here, do you feel, is there something like positive about this experience for humanity? Like you said, I mean, we're coming together, and when we stand for the truth, we can feel that joy of being aligned with the truth. But in the greater context, could there even be like an intentional, opportunity or blessing for this to be allowed to happen at this time? Or is it just simply an expression of evil that needs to be judged and banished from planet Earth? How do you see things in this?
Yeah, I think it's a gift. I think the 5G thing that's coming is a gift almost to humanity, and it's a challenge. It's like, now wait a minute, you guys have been so lame for so long. This is why you're in this predicament. This is why you have this certain president. This is why your country's so far in debt. You went to sleep. You got away from hunting and gathering. You got away from the way that you're supposed to live. You're addicted to technology. You're addicted to shopping, materialism, possessions. You're possessed by your possessions. This is a chance to not just stop the 5G, like Josh, like I say, but to reveal the whole history of humanity's enslavement and the programming of people to addict them to these things in the name of capitalism and in the name of the Crown's agenda. And it's the great unveiling. So good is going to be outed, bad's going to be outed. Technology in the end, I think, will be outed. I have this funny feeling that all this is going to go really haywire on them. So there is that, but there's also big decisions people have to make it go our way. And one of them, is definitely this whole, I mean, look, Apple's got a phone now. They're advertising it that you can pay for stuff with. Don't get it. Don't go any further down this road, because it's coming down to an implantable chip. Mark Carney was in Jackson Hole in July, and he's talking down the dollar. Mark Carney, governor of the Bank of England, he was your governor of your Bank of Canada before that, because it's Canada's part of the Crown. It's a Crown entity. It's part of the Commonwealth, and the Queen has the ultimate say. If she doesn't like Trudeau, she can just throw him out anytime she wants. They did it in Australia in 1972 to Gough Whitlam when he stood up to the mining interests. Carney's over there saying, look, the dollar is disrupting the world economy. We may have to go to a cryptocurrency, based on the IMF special drawing rights. So to me, this impeachment of Trump that's going on, which this whistleblower is a Crown agent, how can you just wiretap the President of the United States, listen into his conversation? and then complain that, oh, Ukraine's not getting, like Ukraine is the most corrupt country on earth right now. Okay. So they shouldn't get any money. Then you're going to have Brexit, which I believe the Crown wants. A lot of people think Brexit is some liberating move for the people of the UK, but I think the Crown, having already enslaved people in the EU, which is an enslavement camp, corporate enslavement camp for sure, but now that's done. So now they want out of there so they can operate more independently again, as a mercantilist kind of East India Company entity. This is why you're seeing the Hong Kong protests. This is all being fomented by British intelligence and the CIA. You're going to see a collapse. You're going to see an economic collapse, and then you're going to see this introduction of this cryptocurrency. There's a company called Digital Media Group. Google that, people. See who's on the board of that. Lawrence Summers is the advisor, special advisor, and one of the board of directors is a governor of the New York Federal Reserve. Very powerful man. Lots of other stuff that he owns and is involved in. The other people are involved in kind of wet works technology, implantable stuff, tracking technology that are on this group. This digital currency group has bought Bitcoin. It is mopping up all blockchain and all cryptocurrencies and putting it under this one corporation. And it's controlled by the same crowd. It's controlled by the Crown and the Fed. So it's
coming. So crypto is not a savior. It's crypto. No. We can't put our trust in crypto.
No, it's not. I'm afraid it's not. I'm afraid it was a ruse. They use these geeks to get this stuff, to do their dirty work for them. That's what the Crown does. They use people to do the innovation, to invent stuff, and then they take their Circos of the world and they funnel all the innovation, all the small business ideas, all the entrepreneurship, and they just suck it into their cartels. And they that's what they do.
Yeah.
And it's just tragic, but they've been doing this for centuries.
We're out of time. We have to wrap up, but I just want to say, Dean, it's amazing how this technology, 5G and the internet and all of these waves, it's all, the information coming at us, the propaganda, the mind control, all of this stuff. It's like this hyper focus that we're being entrained with to be focused on the external, right? And the way is about what we've all heard of. The kingdom is within. It's without and it's within, but you have to be connected within in order to be connected with the all. That's the way I'm really starting to see this thing. And so nature, right? Getting those natural, organic nature frequencies around us, unplugging from EMF, having forest bathing, as the Japanese call it, or just like camping and getting in the woods and reconnecting within and disconnecting from the external seems to be a huge part of this. I know Jason Bodden-Smith in the summit said that everyone he's worked with who's come back from these like autoimmune diseases and all this stuff, getting time in nature, getting around those nature frequencies has been part of this. And it seems like that's what realigns us with that natural law, right? With that God's law and that kingdom within. And so, and I know that you've shared with me a little bit about that, but so any final thoughts just on that?
Just, you're right. Our bodies are our temple. If we're talking about, the building of a temple or the taking over of a temple, I think what that means is, your body is your temple. You don't let anything in your body that violates it. And that's just so important because it is from within that we gain the strength. That's where a great spirit lives. Great spirit, maybe it's just all of us collectively really enlightened. Maybe that's what it just all means. And along with all the enlightened natural things, perfect things that fit together in nature that you can look out your window and you can see, wow, amazing. There had to be somebody that made this, something made this. It can't just be, because they want to tell us it's all chaos and randomness and just all this stuff. But again, that's just their inversion of reality. So no, I think it's very important. And the other thing it says in the Bible is, you don't worship the image of the beast. And I wonder about, is the image of the beast just every time we're on the screen like this? Like, is it the screen time? Are we worshiping false idols by spending so damn much time looking at images, looking at the screens, looking at what's TV, internet, whatever it is? So yeah, you're absolutely right. People just need to, the big challenge to humanity right now is a rejection of high technology. I have no problem with low technology. I love like the wheel. It's great. I mean, there's a lot of good low technology, and then you think about the word again, high technology. Etymology is so important. Study etymology, study the meaning of words. What is high technology? What does that mean? What's high about it? And so people, this is where humanity has to make a choice. And if we make the right choice and we just put the stuff away a lot more, get outside, go camping a lot more, protect our inner temple, don't just let anything into it anymore, because we've been opened up to all this bad stuff. That's what they're doing. They're like opening us up to it with all these tricks, and then they're going to dump in a lot of bad stuff. And you just have to take that path less traveled. You know, that we've always known that that's where the truth lies, is where the path where there's not going to be a crowd, there's not going to be a lot of people. Yeah. And then hopefully enough people will kind of do the same, and you know, we'll just see what happens. But I really appreciate you having me today, Josh. And I just want you to know I really respect your work too and what you've done, and thank you so much for all that. I know it's overwhelming sometimes, and you know, just take a break yourself to get out, go camp. And you know, I live on 42 acres. That's why I do it, just because. And I know you've moved out to country, and good for you, because you know, really need to just space this information out with quality, just time to reflect and get for it to get strong, healthy mind, healthy spirit, and everything. So I really appreciate it anyway.
That's good, man. Thank you. And that I like what you said about, you know, the image and screen time, and we need to get away from these screens. It's incredible, even just doing this work and having these conversations. But we're trying to use technology in a good way, right? So one idea might be, if you're watching this, you know, we're going to make this available as like an audio. You can download the audio. You can, you know, low tech it with like an old school iPod or whatever, and go for a walk in the woods and just like listen to talks like this, and just get the information combined with unplugging, perhaps. But thank you, Dean, so much for your time today. I really appreciate your perspective and for, you know, teaming up on this mission here. And there's so many that are waking up and coming along. It's encouraging in the midst of this sort of like, you know, potentially very discouraging thing that's happening on the planet. But we're coming together. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time.
All right, right on.